This is an AI-generated podcast based on the article From Facing 20 Years to Building a Future, Shekema King's Story of Redemption and Purpose, written by Apryl. The article link is in the show notes. Welcome to Kingdom Factor Collective. I'm your host, Apryl, and today I'm sitting down with someone whose story honestly stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered it. Shekema King is a business owner, a minister in training, a substance abuse counselor in training, a mother of 5, grandmother of 4, and a woman whose entire life has been, I think the only word for it is forged. Shekema, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really grateful to be here. And just, to be able to share what God has done, it never gets old telling it.
So let's just go right there, because your story starts in a place that most people can't imagine. You walked into a church that day knowing the police were coming. You had done your hair, picked out something nice to wear, not to celebrate, but because you didn't want your mugshot to look a mess. Can you just take me back to that moment? What was going on inside you?
So here's what happened. I had been on the run. I was facing a potential 20-year sentence. And honestly, I had been in survival mode since I was 16. Teenage mother twice over and then losing my own mother. I was angry at God, at life, at everything. And my grandmother asked me to come to church one more time. And I said yes, but not for the right reasons. I love my grandmother. That's why I went. I had no intention of receiving anything that day. I was just waiting for the service to end. And then something shifted. Something shifted. The minister asked a question near the close of the sermon. He said, I know people are able to praise God after he works it out. Who's able to praise God before he works it out? And I tell you, it was like a light bulb went through my heart. My heart was very hard before that moment, and I felt it soften. I didn't plan it. I couldn't control it. My arms went up. My feet carried me to the altar. I confessed Jesus is Lord. I was baptized on the spot. And when I stepped out of that water, I had peace, real peace, for the first time in years. And then came the knock on the bathroom door. And then came the knock. The police were waiting just like they said they would be. Over 300 people had gathered outside. And when they asked me to make a statement at the station, I just told them I had just received Jesus into my life. And I had the most peace I had ever known. Whatever my fate would be, I accepted it. Does that make sense? Like, I genuinely meant that.
That's a level of surrender that most people never reach in their entire lives, let alone at that age, in that moment. So the 20-year sentence, what happened with that?
It was reduced to 4 years at 50%. And I want to be clear, what followed was not easy, but it was not random either. The warden was a believer, and he had placed prayer boxes in every pod, launched a program that became a real gathering place for transformation. A chaplain followed me from county jail to the penitentiary, just consistently pouring into me. Ministers came in from every denomination, Catholic, Baptist, deliverance, recovery, and each one added another layer of healing. I began to be healed, bit by bit, bit by bit. My time in there was all orchestrated by the Lord.
I love that framing, orchestrated. Can you unpack that a little? Because I think a lot of people hear God was in it and they think it means it was easy or comfortable.
Right. No, not at all. I left with 6 college credits and a faith that had been forged in fire, but I also left without a pastor. And the years after were marked by isolation, by backsliding, by grief. I have not had a single year without losing someone I loved since losing my mother in 2002. A brother, a father, 3 uncles, an aunt, a grandmother, more friends than I can count. It's one thing to know of a God. It's another thing to know a God who is all powerful. And that's who he is. That distinction and finding the right spiritual covering, my apostle, Pastor Javel, that's when things really accelerated.
You mentioned your father, and I know last July you went through something significant there. He wasn't a believer, and you sensed he wasn't coming home. What did you do with that?
So instead of rushing to the hospital, I stayed at his home. I cleaned it, and then I did the only thing I knew would matter most. I interceded. I called my apostle, and together with Pastor Andrew, the three of us prayed over his final moments, asking God to give him an encounter before he left this world. And my grandmother told me later that as he was passing, he jumped up and looked around the room like he was seeing something no one else could see. I believe I know exactly what that was.
Wow. And you prayed something personal for yourself that day too.
I did. I'm not ready to share all of it, but I asked God to keep me from being pulled under by grief this time. And he answered. Since losing my dad and that prayer and the Lord confirming with me that I will see him again, I've been running forward ever since. I feel like I can't stop.
That momentum is really evident in what you're building now. Tell me about the Reentry Center, because this is where your business life and your calling kind of become the same thing.
Yeah, so right now I own Elevated Cleanliness, LLC. I'm a minister in training, a substance abuse counselor in training, and the work that keeps me up at night is building a full wraparound reentry and recovery center for people who have nothing and no one. My current clients include people sleeping on the streets. The city I serve has a homeless shelter with 12 beds. 12! And I sit across from men and women whose stories sound like chapters from my own life, and I feel it. It's almost like I'm sitting across the room listening to me and looking at me. And I do feel limited in what I'm able to do right now. They need more.
So the vision is comprehensive, not just a meal and a cot.
Not at all. It's from homelessness to homeownership, from high school dropout to college graduate. I want people to begin dreaming again inside those walls. The 501c3 name is already chosen. The startup funds are ready, but I am waiting and waiting on purpose.
And that's actually where I want to end, because I think this is the most countercultural thing you've said in this whole conversation. You have the money, you have the name, you have the urgency, real human need in front of you every week, and you're choosing stillness. What would you say to a faith-driven leader who's wired to build and struggling with that tension?
I would encourage any believer, get before the Lord and know nothing. It's uncomfortable, it's not easy, but you have to. The timing belongs to Him. And I know that the vision is from God, which means I also know He knows the outcome. That's the discipline. That's the surrender. And honestly, it might be the most courageous thing I've ever done.
Shekema, this has been such a rich conversation. Thank you for being so open, so honest, and so willing to share all of it, the hard parts and the beautiful parts. For everyone listening, the full article is linked in the show notes. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And Shekema, keep running forward.
I will. Thank you. I really will.